Later this year, debate is on whether or not junior secondary schools should be domiciled, or rather where they should be domiciled, with stakeholders expressing their varied opinions. While the Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, largely comprising of primary school teachers, wants the junior schools domiciled within primary schools, its sister union, KUPPET, wants the same placed inside secondary schools. As Shadrach Miti reports, suggestions by KNUT are a complete departure from the CBC Task Force report and the Ministry of Education on the domiciling of junior secondary.
In its 2022-year projections, the Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, has outlined various activities and expected outcomes. And key among the suggested targets is the proposal to realign grades 7, 8 and 9. In the document, signed by Secretary General Collins Oyo, KNUT wants a junior secondary section domiciled in primary school as the sure way to combat the runaway schools unrest and indiscipline in secondary schools. This, the union says, will also ensure parental involvement in handling children at that level and reduce the cost of building 3 more classrooms in the secondary section when there are already 2 classes in the primary section. In its justification, KNUT claims schools unrest could be because of explosive populations within schools and that adding another 2 classes to an already overstretched establishment could be causing more trouble in secondary schools. And in what appears to be a huge departure from the government's standpoint and CBC Task Force report on the structuring and domiciling of junior secondary, KNUT says it will ensure that junior secondary becomes senior primary. However, its sister union KUPPET maintains it's only proper for junior secondary to be domiciled in secondary schools.
Junior secondary must be in the second school, not in the primary school, because there are certain elements and tenets of teaching that will be undertaken in junior secondary. So it should be in the second school. And this is not the first time we are having junior secondary. You are forgetting KJCEC, which was junior secondary. It served us from class 9 to something like Form 1 and 2. It was in second school.
Yet, KNUT appears keen on pushing through its recommendations. The former giant union expects more teachers to be deployed to the proposed junior secondary, which they are pushing for it to be called upper or senior primary. In the document, Secretary General Collins Oyo argues that out of 10 teachers, 8 are holders of the first degrees. Thus, the union expects TSC to work with teachers with those qualifications, but had not been deployed to secondary schools for not having attained the minimum qualification of C+ to universities. However, KUPPET National Chair Omboko Milemba says limiting the discussion on the domiciling of junior secondary to school structures is losing the focus.
We speak about junior secondary as in which level is it, not which structural buildings are they hosted. How many times have we had Form 1 beginning in a primary school? So whether they are hosted within a local primary schools, which I support, they should be in secondary schools.
Under the new system of education, learners are supposed to spend 6 years in primary, 3 years in junior secondary, and another 3 years in senior secondary. However, KNUT wants that structure changed. And should their proposal stand, it may allow junior secondary change to senior primary. Shadrach Miti, KTN News.
Let's now go to the Kenya-Uganda border point in Malaba, where there has been a truck build-up stretching over 50